Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really?
Disastrous for a president
To even say
to be
he's
unaware of the chief
It's
justice.
a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was very
Backfired.
terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
Welcome to The Advocate, where the one thing that's constant is that you will be challenged. Uche's challenge to us today is that our children need to be taught sex education in schools. Ekene, on the other hand, asks, "Where the daddy at?" by saying, "Man up or else." Our guest advocate Emeka, yes, he came back, turns his attention and our attention to an area most of us take for granted, the care for animals in our zoos. Chuka has issues. No, not those kind of issues. He's got issues with the sartorial choices of our politicians and Nigerians in general. Liboros is absent. Do I miss him? Actually, I do, but sadly, he's not here to discuss my topic, which is about Nigeria and our LGBT children. So sit back, off to the kitchen, grab some coffee, come back after the break, and we'll get started. What does pride mean to you? Confidence, achievement, or even satisfaction? Sometimes you use it for friend or family. Now, did you know that June is Pride Month? So why aren't we all going around saying Happy Pride Month or sending it to each other? That's because this June, we're celebrating a different kind of pride. 50 years ago this month, in an area of cosmopolitan New York called Greenwich Village, members of the LGBT community were going about their business. All was fine until the New York City police raided one of the very few hubs that welcomed openly gay people. It's called the Stonewall Inn. Needless to say, the incident escalated, leading to protests and uprising by the LGBT community. It was the outrage and the refusal to accept invisibility and violence that gave birth to the modern-day LGBT liberation movement. Pride Month is about a period when communities of our brothers and sisters proclaim, remind, and invite us to open our hearts, mind, and ears to the simple fact that their love is no different to others, that they are not freaks of science or nature. Where are you, Liboros? That they are equal to you and I. They have the exact same red blood flowing through their veins, that they should be and expect to be treated with the same respect and freedom that you and I take for granted, that they have the right to live their lives without abuse, persecution, fear, intimidation, victimization, or attack. Pride is about claiming back that which was afforded to them by God at birth, something you and I take for granted, the right to love and mate with whoever we want. In 2013, the Nigerian National Assembly passed the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act, SSMPA. But here's the one thing. Around 3 to 10% of every population is made up of LGBT community. For a population like ours, that's pretty big. In a recent survey by Nigerian NGO Initiative for Equal Rights, a new pattern of positive attitude is emerging. In 2017, 83% of Nigerians would not accept an LGBT family member. Today, that number has dropped to 60%, an important decrease of 23%. The same optimistic shift is also noted in the attitude of Nigerians towards SSMPA Act in 2015. 90% of those surveyed supported the law. Today, about 75% support it, a considerable drop of 15%. So why do Nigerians or Nigeria continue to deny her LGBT children? What's driving the intolerance, ignorance, and homophobia towards their fellow Nigerians? Like all forms of discrimination, homophobia isn't just harmful to one, it's detrimental to all. So isn't it time to live your life and just let others live theirs? I ask.
we're not all homophobic, though. I think there's a definition for homophobic, which is quite different from not accepting or thinking that it's okay to be gay. That's not homophobia. Because phobia definitely in English means a fear of something.
No.
An irrational fear.
An irrational, that's the actual, no, that's the
no, in this context it's anti. It's anti. That's what homophobia means. It's anti.
No, then it's the wrong use. And you know why we must stop using the word homophobia? Because that's not the meaning.
But
the meaning is irrational fear of homosexuality.
No, it's not
and
irrational
until you stop
fear.
it, you will not be able to engage with. No, it's not. I'm telling you what it is.
You know what? I agree with you.
I agree with you. You can't engage me with homophobia because I am not homophobic. And if you
are you anti-gay or not?
When you say am I anti-gay,
yes.
I would rather that we were not gay, that there was no one that was gay.
Well, would you rather that we weren't heterosexual either?
No, I will love us to be
You like the fact that we're heterosexual?
Yes.
Then you're homophobic.
No, you see, I don't. This is the angle that I didn't like. You know, I always feel like when people don't necessarily go along with something, they're labeled, and it's a horrible label because and it's done specifically to try and control how people respond to situations. Now, you know, calling somebody just because I don't agree with homophobia. That means you're homophobic. I mean, not homophobia. No, it doesn't. It's an irrational fear. It's an irrational fear. And it's not an irrational fear for me. It's just, all it is that I don't particularly agree with that way of life. I'm not going to stop them from doing. No, it isn't. No, it's not. It really isn't. It's the same way
it's good that we're having this. And you're saying this because
I really think
you haven't changed that word.
We know
I think that word
there's
must
a
be changed.
positive pattern that's changing. No, actually, it doesn't.
No, I think it must be
It
changed.
has to be changed.
Because that word is a bullying word.
I personally can't be engaged.
So this is the thing for me, though. I find that, and I think you just use the word bullying, that people are not allowed to. You want to be different. You're different. Yeah. You're exercising that difference publicly. Now, someone else exercises his difference of opinion or of acceptance doesn't automatically make that person hateful.
Yes, exactly.
In other words, so because I think we're getting to the point where dissent of a lifestyle or the fact that someone expresses dissent of a particular person's lifestyle doesn't mean that they automatically hate that lifestyle.
Do you think?
So I think we need to.
It's about disliking the action, but
do you
not
think
hating
homosexuals?
the
Let's talk about it. Do you think members of the homosexual community, LGBT community, actually dislike your lifestyle?
No.
So why then do you think you have a choice to dislike theirs?
Because
we have every right to choose what we like or don't.
Sorry, let him come back on it.
Because I'm trying to make a point. There's a basic difference from. It's not as cut and dry to say there's a predominance of a certain view,
lifestyle.
Of a certain lifestyle.
Yes.
And then someone. So it's like you're different. There's nothing wrong with someone being different, But I think that what is happening now is a reversal, you know, in the sense that where someone says, you know, I don't like the thing you're doing, doesn't automatically mean that I hate you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or that the fact that
but it's true.
I won't come back here because I want Ekene to speak before I come into it.
Okay. Well, you know, I was listening to what they're saying, and I tend to agree with what Chuka said. Homophobia.
What about me? Don't you agree?
Well, you're all saying the same thing, really. Homophobia doesn't mean that you hate that group. I mean, you asked the question, why are people not tolerant of homosexuals or the homosexual lifestyle?
No, what I ask is, what is driving this intolerance, homophobia, etc.?
Okay. So I can maybe at least represent the Judeo-Christian and possibly Muslim perspective, because I think a lot of it may still have its origins in a religious, and I think people already sense this, that, you know, the religious view, which I'm not sure how well they present this, is that this is an aberration, but it's not an aberration that is judging the homosexual independent of other people who perform other, you know, acts of sexual conduct that the scriptures
sexual deviation.
It's in line with. It basically would say a philanderer would still be categorized under the same. Somebody
a pedophile
would still. I'm coming. Let me continue.
Let
me try and finish.
No, but it's a different lifestyle.
I want Ekene to finish. And Ekene didn't say pedophilia.
Okay, so I did. Yes, I did.
And I find that abhorrent.
Okay, but you talked about philandering.
There you go. No, I wanted her to finish.
Any form of sexual behavior that is not heterosexual, loyal to that one party, married, outside of marriage, under the scriptures is considered an aberration. And so people who maybe think they're better off because they're not homosexual, they're not necessarily.
No.
They are still to be judged in the same way as a homosexual.
Okay,
I'm coming. So let me just get to the end of this.
I don't understand.
So, well, maybe others will explain because I'll just have one shot at it. But subsequently, where I'm taking this is to say, the only reason why it seems the homosexual is being targeted under these sort of religious definitions is that they are saying this is normal. The person who is...
Who's they?
The homosexual
lobby are trying to assert
the LGBT
and legalize.
I say, this is normal for us.
We're trying to...
It's normal for them.
No. They're trying to tell society.
They're saying
May I finish?
It is normal for us.
May I finish?
What's normal for you is normal for you.
May I finish?
Go ahead.
They're also trying to tell society that we should accept it. Hence, before we started, you're saying, teach it in schools that this is the norm. Society is now like this. Marry us, let us adopt children. This goes against. It's basically what you're telling the person who doesn't believe this is that they have to choose between what they believe.
But what do you believe?
I'm a Christian, so clearly I don't.
What do you believe? Do you? It's about what we believe here. It's not about what somebody else is saying.
I'm a Christian, so I'm telling
which
you
was what?
This is an aberration. This is not the right
you
way.
Think it's
but I'm not
aberration.
stopping at that. I'm saying if someone, because I've known people who are gay. I have friends who are gay. I
hope they can hear you say their lifestyle is an aberration.
They hear me all the time. It's not. They know it.
That you think their lifestyle is an aberration.
Yes, but I also go.
But I think
I'm also going for. I'll try and finish off because I know other people have things to say. But I'll go further to say, like, if that person were to accept that they needed, if you like, a reversal or a turnaround, then there is opportunity. But it's in the same way that anybody who is doing the wrong thing can have a U-turn. It's not different to what I had to do when I make mistakes. You can actually be transformed from being homosexual. That's the bottom line.
Ekene, you are an educated woman.
It's not about education.
In the 1930s, this was already disproven. There is no such thing. It is not a freak
I know
of
people
science.
who have.
No, they might just be buying.
Who have been transformed.
It is absolutely
you don't believe
not
them.
true. There is no such thing as being transformed.
I have just read.
Well, look, we knew that was going to be intense, and we'll keep debating. Still yet, happy Pride Month to my LGBT brothers and sisters.
What happened to the Q?
I can't say.
and the plus.
After the break, Uche puts her foot on the pedal, faster this time, to talk about sex education in our schools. Make a coffee and join us.
Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really disastrous for a president
to even say
be unaware of the chief
justice.
It's
a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was
very
terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
You're watching The Advocate on Plus TV Africa. They say a stitch in time saves 9. To this end, today I'll be talking about why we need sex education taught in Nigerian schools. I was surprised to learn that sex education is yet to become part of the Nigerian school curriculum. In an age when children are continually exposed to sexual content from a very early age, it makes no sense that sex education is still very much taboo in our schools. It worries me that our children have been left to navigate their way through this highly sexually charged world without the knowledge and tools with which to do so. In conservative religious countries such as Nigeria, it is expected that sex education is the responsibility of the parents and therefore should be taught at home. However, from the numerous discussions I have had concerning this subject, it appears this isn't the case. Our children get their information or misinformation from their friends, television, magazines, and the internet. This is why I believe age-appropriate sex education classes need to be taught in all schools. Teenagers have all manners of hormones coursing through their veins, and this makes them want to explore and experiment. If they're going to participate in sexual activity, isn't it better that they know all the risks and consequences that go with sex? Sometimes children have a hard time talking to their parents about sex. I know I would, as it can be awkward and uncomfortable for all involved. By having a sex education class in school, they'll be able to hear it from an outside source, possibly making it easier for them to engage in the conversation and provoke them to ask questions. Sexual activity is always going to be around, and it's important that all students learn, or all children, shall I say, learn about the risks and consequences of having sex. And this can be best achieved, as far as I'm concerned, through schools.
And I like the way you added, as far as I'm concerned, in case Ireti now challenges you.
And I have to say something. There's a large part that I agree with, because for me, sex education should be a given anyway. It's a given. And I do agree that it needs to be a partnership between school and home. Right. However, what I don't agree is that it's the school that should teach it. I agree that it should be part of the curriculum. Having said that, my biggest issue is, and I still say, in Nigeria, parents have a habit of franchising their responsibility over to the school because they're embarrassed. And number two is we have an issue with calling things what they are. In a country where we call the vagina pee-pee and we call the penis pee-pee, how are you going to be able to talk to your child about reproductive organs? If the thing about sex education is most people often foolishly think it's about sex. Actually, it's not. No. Yeah. It's about owning your own body. It's about the comfort of self. It's about knowing your body and knowing how to use it out. Thank you. And that's what we need to teach. And I just find it disturbing that if a parent can't do that, should there really be a parent?
That's extreme. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, but let me say, I understand why parents.
Where did that child come from?
Yeah, I understand why parents would find it difficult to want to treat that subject with their children, and vice versa, actually. So it is. I honestly believe that the schools could do it. But I just don't know if in Nigeria, at least with all our conservatism and all that, are we going to get enough teachers?
Do you think schools alone should be doing it, or both?
No,
I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
She's not saying schools alone.
I'm just saying that schools should definitely be taught in schools.
I think it really ought to be taught in schools, really well. And that does not mean the parent shouldn't do anything, but just in case the parent does nothing, I really think that in school you must
the school is not going to be the grandmother or grandfather.
Let me come in a way. I sort of agree with Ireti in the sense that, I really think this is something parents need to handle. They need to own this one. And I'm suspicious when schools start teaching something like this anyway. But I'll give you an illustration, because I knew you were going to talk about this. And, I was sitting down in the living room, and on one of the news channels, they started talking about menstruation. And I was like, oh gosh, these two girls here in my house, I've never spoken to them about their period. One is 9, one is going to be 11, and she's going to secondary school. So I took the opportunity as they were watching, wondering what's going on. I'm like, have they taught you anything about, and then we started talking. And of course, now, if the schools had done a biology lesson, it would have been easier, but it was okay. We had to explain it, So I think it's useful as a platform just to give them the outline, but parents need to really brave up and teach them.
Be the leader in the teaching.
The area I feel, and I wish, if we could rewind, I would have had, and this is not to say my mom didn't do her best, is to say I wish there was more instruction about don't feel intimidated about, getting into a sexual relationship. Don't feel, because about society bullies you almost that you're abnormal if you don't want to. Be bold enough to go against.
If you look at a boy, you'll get pregnant.
So be bold enough to own your sexuality and to say no. That's really what I wish.
That's what you want.
I think it goes back to the first topic with debated. There's this religious, cultural criminalization of sex. Anything to do with our bodies, is wrong. And that's sort of carried over. So we see even people who are sexual or who, you know, we see there's something pernicious, something
dirty,
bad, something dirty, something taboo.
But that could be because it's often abused as well.
Yeah, well, you know,
I think it's more from a religious angle,
the abuse
to be
stems
honest.
from the fact where you hide it, where you're not discussing it.
Yes.
Because
When
you talked
not
about
open.
it's about our health, it's about our bodies. I think we should, there's nobody who, you know, your being, how you came to be is from that activity itself. So you cannot suddenly now, you know, want to
shy away,
appropriate it that is only for when you have. And the reality is that it happens with or without your knowing.
Yes,
so
and that's
you
the
might
fact.
as well, you know, take responsibility, take ownership of it, and have the discussion. I know it can be, again, from that cultural background, it can be difficult. You know, I mean, I've got a daughter who's 14.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you had that conversation with her?
I've tried.
Okay.
And this is what she
for
said
even
to
trying.
Me. She said to me, Dad, you know, we went out, we went out for some food and drinks and started the topic.
Set the stage.
And she said to me, I know about these things.
Exactly.
I like her.
They will know before you come.
So I asked her, I said, from where?
You try not to sound surprised.
I was trying, and she said, from school, and then mom.
Excellent. The mother has already done the job. And that brings me on to...
And I think, so I have my own responsibility. It's my son.
She's taking the girl, you take the boy.
So, I think we need to, as a society, we need to, you know, decriminalize.
Make it normal.
It happens.
Yes.
I don't want it to happen.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't make it appear as if, you know, something is just essentially at the first instance is bad. The sex is bad.
So
you always find that sex is because that's the way people see it.
Which you are.
Sex is bad.
Yes.
Bad.
Yeah.
No, because
like I said, imagine being mother to a boy, which I am, which Uche is.
Calling the uncles.
You've had the convo.
And people have often asked me, and I get asked this question quite, and I'm happy to answer. When did you start having a conversation with your son? And actually, I did an interview in the newspaper, and it was blown up. Cecilia said she started talking to her son from age 7. Actually, I did. And people ask me, why such an age? And I said, you know when the time is right for each child. Each child is different. How did I know? It's a funny story. I come into the house with a friend of mine. We'd been out to dinner, male. And then I see his hands in his pants. And I'm like, darling, get your hands out of there. What's going on? He said, it's tickly. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, time to have that talk.
I know this
so
very well.
I did that talk, and I called his dad, oi, need to talk to your son. Time to have it. But since then, we've been very open. And incidentally, when you talk about the health, that's actually where I wanted to come. Most boys are actually not born with 2 testicles. Most people don't know that. I happen.
One drops later.
One drops later. So, of course, we mothers, we check everything now. Fathers often know, but we mothers, we check everything to make sure it's all complete. Notice that my son didn't have 2.
So, see, I'm even laughing, and it shouldn't be. I should be like,
yeah, but no,
is he going to watch this?
You haven't laughed.
So he's going to watch this now. This child, like,
I know,
So no, but it's important to know this, and so I noticed I had, and the doctor said to me, "Don't worry, you know, it'll drop later." So of course, how am I going to know if it drops? So I said to my son, "Look, always touch it. Let me know when it comes down." So one day it comes down. It comes down. It's like, "Mommy, yes, it's come down." I'm like, "Yes, where to?"
You're ridiculous.
Private joke.
It's comfortable. Now he's used to checking it. Because that testicular cancer, most men don't check. So this is why it needs to be about owning and being comfortable with your body. My son thinks I'm crazy, but he'll appreciate it.
No, I think you're definitely on the right track.
Mm.
The reason I had to bring it up was because I noticed that parents, when they are faced with it, they don't actually handle it properly. They give it the wrong names, like some even tell them, don't look at a boy, you get pregnant, which is just totally misleading. You know, many of them won't even tell them exactly how it goes. Whereas if it's learned in school, they're not going to be telling them any of that nonsense.
I think the school needs to teach the parents how to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was instructive. Parents and stakeholders, you've been alerted, so shine your eye. Ekene gives us a Father's Day teaser after the break. Stay with us.
Time for some long overdue tete-a-tete. With Father's Day a week away, you could say that today's advocacy is a Father's Day appetizer. It's not uncommon to hear snide remarks made about absentee fathers, whether those who are physically absent or physically present and just not there for their families. In America, 1 in 4 children live without a father in the home. In South Africa, 57% of children are raised without fathers, apparently the highest rates in sub-Saharan Africa. With the vacuum of data on Nigeria, we can only conjecture that Nigeria's figures are below this. We haven't even started to document all the resultant social ills. Suffice it to say that society is severely destabilized at its foundations by the phenomenon of absentee fathers. Why is it that some men see fatherhood as a calling and rise to the challenge with sacrificial selflessness, inspiring wife and children and bequeathing a priceless legacy, whereas some others duck and dive and act as though the fatherhood were a burden? What makes a man abandon his post and primary duty to his family? There are one too many accounts of fathers hiding behind one escapist indulgence or the other. Workaholism, alcoholism, drug abuse, and we keep making excuses for them. Men are facing so much pressure. Men aren't designed to be monogamous. At least he pays his children's school fees. Where is the metal? Where are the real men? By silent acquiescence, are we unconsciously breeding a generation of absentee fathers? Men whose identity starts and stops at fathering children, minus the fatherly qualities. To reverse this culture, I recommend we start from the crib to apply deliberate parenting, to unteach the me-first, instant gratification, money culture. Society should model, expect, demand, and reward responsible conduct in young men. Laws should be applied to punish irresponsible baby daddies. Ultimately, we want our fathers back.
Yes,
where the daddy at?
Yeah, we do want our fathers back, honestly. I mean, I feel it's very tragic when men just don't step up to the plate. You know, you father a child and, you know, when it comes to actually taking responsibility for that child, you take off. I'm not even speaking of, you know, there are many family setups where the father may not be physically in the house with the child, but he's very much involved. You know, so I'm speaking of the one that is not even involved at all. Exactly. You know, I'm so traumatized by that because I just look at it. I think all these children running around with no fathers, no role models, no anything to sort of, you know, look to and say, this is the way, you know, I should try and live my life, or this person I should emulate. It's just not right. I think it's time that we really do, especially in Nigeria, start punishing fathers who, you know, negate on their duties. It's just, you can't allow children to just be wandering around wondering, where am I from? Who's my father? What does he, you know, what does he think of me? Feeling incomplete. That breaks my heart, you know, simply.
And so this is one that...
Yeah, it's very painful.
But what, I don't understand, because I don't quite understand what the complaint is. Essentially, my question is, there are many reasons why a father isn't there. Two people have some casual relationship.
Well, it doesn't have to be casual.
I want to give about 2 or 3 instances, and
okay.
I'll leave it. And people have a casual thing, a child comes of it. The only thing is a woman gets to carry the child for 9 months, and the child comes out. So it's very difficult for her to say, after all that, just me too. I'm
like
to
we
leave
said,
the child, just like the father
the rape of Helen Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she looks after the child. But what was she expecting when she was expecting nothing to even have happened between her and the man to the extent of having a child? Is that child an absentee? Is that father an absentee father?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, what are you saying?
It was part of the makeup.
No. I'm asking you.
We're answering you.
Oh, yes.
And we're answering you.
Right?
Ask and we shall answer.
And is he a negligent absentee?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you ask the question, though?
Next
why is it?
I thought you said you have more questions.
But I'm even wondering, why is it a question
Why
in
is
your
it a
mind?
question? Because you got into something that was not supposed to come up with anything
not the
like
man's
a child.
fault.
And then the man is probably angry about the whole thing. There are instances where you're angry.
You don't think she's angry?
So this thing about
she might not.
You don't think she's angry?
We're having sex.
Oh yeah, she might
Doesn't
not.
mean that
you're
we
lucky
want a
you've
baby.
got your brother here.
Oh,
What about the woman?
It
Got a
doesn't
brother
mean-
here. Do you think the woman too said, I want a baby to come from the sex?
Exactly. You don't think she's angry?
Some are trying to trap the man. Okay, what if I was... hang on.
Cool out.
What if somebody was trying to trap? Yeah. What if someone?
Happy?
If someone was trying to trap me, how is that going to pan out?
What's so special about
trap? Let's just get the trap. Did she trap you to get in bed, or did you go into that bed with her?
No, she trapped me perhaps to get me to commit to a good relationship.
No. That
and
act,
then I get angry about it.
That act that you both enjoyed so beautifully.
Yes.
Did she trap you to get into it?
I think Chuka didn't enjoy it, so that's why he's
from using protection.
What?
No, answer the question.
Did she stop you from using protection?
It doesn't matter how much.
No. It matters.
It doesn't matter how much you enjoyed it.
Because it doesn't matter.
My point is this, regardless of the circumstances, that's the point I made earlier, regardless of the circumstances, once there's a child involved, and I think that the man has to, things change, the dynamics of that relationship change. You may not continue the relationship with the mother.
You don't even have to like each other.
Yeah, but a child is completely innocent of all of whatever you guys did, so a child coming to be, there's some responsibility, except in the instance where, the father, in this instance, will not be good for the child.
Yeah,
okay, fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Issues.
The father has some issues where the father being away from the baby is actually advised. Because it could be violent, it could be ugly.
I want to bring up a question.
But other than that,
a dimension to this. So you mentioned something which I like. First of all, it was Ekene that did. First of all, I don't agree about this reward. I don't know what we're rewarding men for being
for doing what they ought to do.
What they want to do. I mean,
but I was about to raise that.
I beg cancel. Cross.
Okay. One of my recommendations
about reward.
No. Anyway, I'll come back on that. I'll come back on that.
Number two is, but I do want to, and I think when something happens, like you said, and everybody else has said, we must, I should say, just rise to the occasion. There was no pun intended. Rise to the occasion and do, Uche, don't laugh, and do what needs to be done. I'm not looking at Emeka either because he's about to laugh.
You just want us to laugh.
Keep going.
Rise. My point is, so for somebody like me who is actually in a co-parent situation,
right?
Because I do call myself a co-parent rather than, so I have three co-parents. The first being my son's dad, and we're not together. We haven't been together for a long time. We were together for many years, although not married. We co-parent together very well. He lives abroad, I live here, and I must say, yes, I'm the one that made the decision to move, and the relationship moved on. But I appreciate the fact that we co-parent. A lot of the co-parenting, the effort to ensure that co-parenting actually came from me. Okay. And it's often, and this is part where we also forget that, yes, we women are the powerful ones, and I'm not being facetious here.
Yeah, true.
In the case where you choose to focus on the child, both adults focus on the child, you will find a way. You'll find a way. But my son's life is so much richer because
his dad
he's got his dad. And he's obsessed with his dad is his hero as much as I'm his hero. So we always fight who do you love first, kind of thing. It becomes a joke. And that's what every child needs or deserves. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Where you don't have a father, unless the father is dead, honestly, I'm appealing to all men. It doesn't matter how ugly that relationship or the friendship could be. Just put it aside. It doesn't matter whether, according to Chuka, somebody trapped you. Put it aside because there's no such thing as being trapped.
You've been trapped.
Once there's a child, Once there's a child, there's a child. Exactly.
But anyway, let's just say the reward thing is that society, I feel, sends out signals as to what is good behavior and what it rewards. So the word reward is used in, almost like endorsing a certain behavior. So if people sort of held up responsible men as role models is a kind of
But that's changing.
That's like
but that's actually changing. Yeah. It's actually becoming more trendy to be a responsible father.
Yeah. Bear with me. I want to hear these men talk about the present but absent fathers. What's the psychology behind that?
I can't answer for them.
If you're not that way,
hang on. No. But I'll just give one thing that I think might be the answer, and it's what you were trying to say. No, it's not. Traditional perception of rules. They simply believe that, mommy, go and pick your children up.
They have an entitled mentality, and most of them will come back.
But that
after the child
could be sociological.
Yes.
I just wonder the psychology behind a man who can just know that his children are out there and not even be bothered by it.
Life is pretty. It's not linear.
No, it isn't.
So, the very many dynamics in terms of how, especially in the relationship of man and woman. But like I said, I think ultimately there should be no doubt that no matter how a child comes to be, there has to be some responsibility that the father or the parent has to share, especially as the child's growing.
Okay, well, we've been talking to you. Now, let's hear you talk to us. We're listening. Nwamaka Okoye says concerning Chuka's take on weave-on and bleaching. Chuka started a revolution. Totally disagree with this gentleman's position. African hair is very difficult to manage. If you're really busy, it requires a lot of time, effort, and resources to manage. I have had my natural hair for the last 5 years, and hands down, the wigs and weave-on are very efficient and look instantly glamorous. It's very different from permanently changing your skin color, which is inconvenient and dangerous. Chuka is still on the ropes. As Nneka Ejiofor says, I give the guy kudos for daring to wade into girl talk. Ononuju Okoli says, wow, bleaching isn't cool. I love my dark skin. I'm proud to be African. So am I, Ononuju, so am I. Keep sending us your thoughts. African.
She's taking what she has now.
Ireti thinks I'm pushing into the Afro zone. I'm African. Keep sending us your thoughts on our social media platforms. On Facebook, +TV Africa, #The Advocate NG, or on Twitter and Instagram @+TV Africa, #The Advocate NG. And remember, to catch up with the previous broadcast, just go to www.plustvafrica.com/The Advocate. Time to go on a breezy break, and when we return, Emeka takes us to the zoo. Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really disastrous for a president to be unaware of the chief
justice. It's a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was
very
terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
You're watching The Advocate on +TV Africa. Time to speak out on behalf of the animals. What to do about the care of animals in Nigeria? Can we continue to look after animals in our zoos, given the sorry state of some of the zoological gardens? We see images and stories being shared online about the lack of care of the animals. And why do we, most Nigerians that is, see the concept of animals in zoos as some sort of cultural conflict? A conflict that is evident in images of starving lions and other animals in our zoos, the stories of some gentlemen trying to sell Yankari Game Reserve. Yes, some people try to. We live in Africa, a continent famed for its wildlife, yet very few people I know, at least in this city, have seen lions, leopards, elephants, or other forms of wildlife beyond bushmeat and alligators, which are delicacies for some. In Nigeria, the conflict is also evident when local villagers who may be facing hunger and deprivation feel that the beached whale is food from the gods, or a rare albino hippo is prize meat. Now talk about poachers who see the killing of endangered species as a business. But the reality is that zoos are important to help bring people and animals together, providing a great opportunity to educate, especially our young people, about the importance of nature and fostering of a beneficial ecosystem. Zoos have the added benefit of providing safety to endangered animals. So it is truly sad and worrying to read about the rising neglect of zoos in Nigeria. We hear and see tales of animals not being fed regularly and workers being underpaid. In some states, Enugu, for example, the old zoo has been demolished and reallocated to a housing estate now called the Zoo Estate. And there are roads in that estate that bear the names of animals like Giraffe Lane and Ostrich Circle and so on. So Nigerian zoos have been accused of starving wild animals in their care, as illustrated by the case of skeletal lions in the Obafemi Awolowo University Zoological Garden. And last year, Twitter handle, Mr. Sawyer, posted a photo that quickly went viral of a frail-looking camel at the National Children's Park, Abuja. So why do we keep animals in captivity if we're unwilling to look after them?
It's a good question. I don't know why we do that if we can't look after them. And I expect we can't look after them. We can barely look after ourselves.
Yes.
You know, so I know I bet practically most animals are starving. You know, I mean, even forget the people that look after them. So I think, you know, we should let the animals go back to wherever they took them from.
No, but you know why I think? Because he mentioned Zoo Estate, and you know, I live near there. And it's a pity because when we lived in Enugu, there was nothing to do with children, really, except to go to ShopRite. Yeah. You know, that was the highlight of your outing as a family. And I think it's really helpful, going back to Chuka's topic last week, if you learn to look after animals, even when you don't have much, it breeds a certain humanity in you. It makes you appreciate certain, you know. So, you know, I think it's something to be encouraged. I think we do have money for it. You know, I think it's something that we should definitely put on the table for the governments to make sure we have certain parks, because it's about standard of living, it's about quality of life. We must have certain parks for our children, must have certain zoos it's really important. It's not something we should neglect. No. As it is, where we live, there hardly any garden space.
I totally agree with you, Ekene. I love zoos, I love safaris, I love all of that. But what I'm saying, what we know about Nigeria is that we can't take care of anything.
But we need it, that's what I'm saying. So it's a priority in my mind.
And these are lives we're talking about, right? Yeah. Animals are alive. Yeah. We can't look after anything. We don't have light.
We need to learn.
Gutters are open. So how do we think animals will be looked after?
Even the people looking after the animals, if you're not even feeding them and you want them to now find food and give to the animals, they're going to even be eating the animals' food.
The research shows that those people were
It's amazing because I didn't realize Agodi Gardens was that good. I'd been hearing Agodi Gardens. I didn't even realize. So once Ibadan, sorry. Okay. So we went one day for something because they were going to do some project in there, and the place is a forest. At some point, I felt I was in the deep forest somewhere, and I was in Ibadan, center of Ibadan for that matter. I was like, it looked like there was a village nearby, and you could film there. Then we got to where the lions were. Oh God, those lions were finished. So I took the photograph. Yes, I took the photograph, put it on Facebook because, funny then, Instagram was not. I was not on Instagram anyway, and it wasn't all. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm sure it would have really been carried. You know, whatever. I still have it on Facebook. I was going to search for it and show it to you guys. And I just thought to myself, but what can we really do?
We need to push for.
But
I'm going to be the dissenting voice. I don't like zoos.
We're not eating. We're not.
You don't like animals?
Water.
No, I don't like zoos. Okay. It's different from I don't like animals.
Keeping them in captivity.
I don't think animals need to be kept in captivity. I think human beings won't like it, and that's not because I'm a human rights. I'm an animal rights person. I don't understand what fascination people have with going to zoos to look at.
But you don't mind safaris?
No, living. But safaris are not in the zoo.
No, that's what I'm asking. So that people can know the difference.
But even then, I respect myself.
I agree with you.
What I don't understand is the fascination or how it is you enjoy watching something living, breathing, another animal like all these a different breed, and who should actually be free in their own habitat, and yet you confine them into for your pleasure. I find it abhorrent. I think it's disgusting. I think those who think children need to go to zoos should be ashamed of themselves. No, but allow me to finish. I think they should try putting their children in a zoo and seeing how that feels. No, live animals. It is the same.
No, it's
Actually, it is the same, and I'll tell you why.
Oh my gosh.
Animals like you and I. And I promise you, it's not because I don't know much about animal rights or anything. And I'm just applying it to me as a person, as a member of the human race. Like you and I, we're all creatures of comfort, communication, interaction, yada, yada, yada. You take people, and when we're in our own habitat, we flourish and we do better. You take in our natural habitat, that is, you don't think it's okay to take animals out of their natural habitat and put them in a man-made metal structure for your pleasure?
Well, we've gone beyond the metal structures.
No, we haven't.
We
haven't.
Let me kind of...
Whether they feed them or not is there or not there.
To the discussion. So there's one thing about the concept of zoos as a place where you confine animals. And there's another thing about zoo as a place where you confine the animals, yet you're unable to take care of them. And there's a third leg of this, which is really like what Ireti is talking about. How do you define zoos nowadays? Because I think that there's a narrative all over the world by people in PETA saying you can't keep animals in zoos and so on, and you should recreate the habitat. But the reality also is that, human beings, we need animals. Some animals will die without human intervention.
Okay.
Or because of human
intervention.
Intervention. If we don't, some animals will go inside
the wild.
So I think the question is, if you go to like if you leave the pandas in China, for example, without human beings trying to intervene
and get them bred and whatever, they will go into extinction.
But the other thing, though, on the far extreme, some people say, so what happens if they go extreme? So let them go extreme. It's nature.
You mean extinct?
Yeah, if they go extinct. Yeah. But my point is, we still need
to feed the ones that
are in.
No, I think we agreed on that.
I don't disagree with you.
So we need to take care. We need to take better care of those animals.
Okay, but can I drop?
But I wanted to come back and explain to you why zoos. At least the reason why I see zoos as important. I know it's not ideal for the animal to be there, but I look at zoos as a way for children to come up close, to learn, to be able to see these animals up close. And because when you go to safaris, there's no guarantee that you may see the animal. Or that you may even see the animal. And you could drive around and you probably just see two animals, wildebeest and another boring animal. But with the zoo,
like wildebeest.
Waterhog. Yes, that's the one you generally see all the time. But at least with the zoo, you can go to a particular place. You see the lion, like we saw the lion at Colchester. We saw the lion, the monkey doing. We saw all these things up close, and that's an opportunity for children to get to see them up close.
Really. I feel that it's helpful, and I'm repeating my point just to emphasize it. It's helpful for Nigerians to imbibe a culture of care. Yeah. And animals apparently are good for people who have issues to learn. No, Nigerians. Everybody.
Everybody.
And the ironic thing is, the same Nigerians who act like they don't have time to go and, yankari, they'll go to Dubai and they'll be oohing and paying lots of money to look at animals.
Supposed to.
They'll go to, but when they come here, it's as if, you take it for granted.
But those are the middle class. That's what I mean, but it's a small percentage of Nigerians.
No, you'll be surprised that even people who live in the rural areas can have respect for animals.
We need to.
I'm not saying don't respect them.
But I think what Emeka is doing really is that it's about pressure groups. He shouldn't stop a pressure group on animals just because I haven't eaten properly.
Let them free.
I'll fight
all of
for
them are important.
Food. The animals will be fought for.
Yes, everybody.
And all that. So we just keep fighting. Fight for NEPA.
Yes, and there's money for it.
I think it's beyond poverty.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it's beyond. I think it's a mindset.
Thank you.
I don't think it's because we were poorer in the 70s. Yeah. There's more money now in circulation. There's more money.
No, we were less as well.
No, well, yes. So, but we were
poorer. Children, so you can look after the animals.
So we looked after
That's
animals.
like a refrain now.
And so if you use the excuse of poverty, I'm sure that poor people in New York
have dogs.
They have cats.
But there's a zoo there. Yeah. So, and I'm sure there are poor people in other parts of the world. I'm sure there are very many poor people in South Africa. And there's a zoo there.
Massive reserves.
That advocacy was designed to expand our horizons. When we come back, Chuka is similarly targeted about his advocacy after the break.
It's time we were one another's mirrors, don't you think? Perhaps if our politicians simplified our outlook in all that we do, we might get better results. What am I saying here? Look at these people, former Senate President Saraki and others. They couldn't help it. Full agbada and suits. They even managed a high table. This was at a visit to an IDP camp. Princess Diana would have showed them how to dress and sit amongst the IDP campers. President Buhari is forever seen in the most lavish agbadas, even when he has to go to places that would require him to roll up his sleeves. Senators and representatives look like a cumbersome lot when in their respective chambers. Is it just me, or do others feel that like these people, might look more efficient with their agbada off. I believe that dress affects productivity. I am also aware that we do try to promote our culture by wearing ours. But frankly, all these people in ceremonial garb, when in fact they're at work, the average woman looks downright sloppy, too colorful and overdressed. Will this not affect her performance? My belief is that our politicians are proverbially dressed in bow ties to go out with a shovel, and they will hinder their own performance.
Can I just stand up? Because I wore this. Ladies and gentlemen, I wore this for Chuka. Color. And incidentally,
carry on.
Incidentally, we didn't plan it.
Yeah, I didn't wear this
Uche's
Chuka, but here
beautiful
you go.
color. We also didn't plan it.
Can check me out.
But you can check out Ekene's color. Because we're not, should we do the politicians or do we deal with the bottom?
No, first let's talk about how the color affects our productivity.
How, Chuka?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it's color in itself. Color and the mode of dress, the style of dress.
It's because
it's flamboyant.
What?
It's flamboyant.
Okay, when you say flamboyant.
And then, hang on, flamboyant, and it's not, it's not practical. It's not practical. It's not made to fit well so you can do work. I mean, for instance, you know why I'm complaining about the agbadas, don't you? I don't think I need to explain.
No, please.
No, I want to
flowing.
take it in different blocks because...
If what I'm wearing now, I could jump over this table.
You could be Superman. But then, Chuka, you wear clothes.
I could dig a hole with a shovel right now with this. Buhari cannot even so much... Look at when he's even walking up to his desk to sit down and talk with his officials. The guy just looks like...
Well, let's just take it for granted. You don't like Buhari, and that's okay.
No.
Allow me to say something to you
Buhari
about
and
dress.
everybody.
All jokes aside, something about clothes. There are two types of relationships with clothes. Right? As one who I've had a very deep relationship, and I don't wear... When I wear clothes, actually, I don't wear them, just wear them. There's a lot of, messaging that goes into what I wear and when I choose to wear it, etc., etc. Chuka, you wear clothes as shelter for your body.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The rest of us enjoy wearing clothes.
We express
We take pleasure out of what we wear.
Sorry.
I have 3 rooms of clothes. Are you telling me I've got to stick to the boring black, to funeral black?
No.
The British grey?
British, yes. No, I'll tell you something. When you said you are something traditional, you dress to cover yourself up, and I said
no, that yes.
I didn't realize that you were directing it at me. I thought you said you.
No.
So my answer is no. I dress the way it's the message I want to give out. That's how I dress.
And so what message are you giving out with this?
With this?
Like he can jump over the table at any given moment.
I will take... So everybody should go back to the past issues of... the past episodes of The Advocate, and they'll know why I'm dressed like this, because I once had to... wear something that I haven't lived it down. I was very quiet throughout that episode.
Let me detour a bit.
Yes,
because... Sorry, Chuka, let me detour a bit. Because when you mentioned Princess Diana, I was fascinated. When I looked at the picture...
No, he wants them in skirts and blouses.
No. Please let me carry on. Please allow me to carry on. Yeah. So I didn't say let me finish. Variation. So Princess Diana, I could see what you meant. She went to these people. She was sitting with them. In one, she had her hand on someone's cheek, and so she was not just the dress, but beyond the dress, she was communicating affection, and I'm one of you. But interestingly, when I looked at some pictures of Aisha Buhari, when the collapsed building, she went to the hospital with the VP's wife as well. She managed to do the same thing. She was wearing the full thing. But, there's a picture of her, which hopefully will come up. This lady just embraced her for dear life. And the smile and the genuineness you got with that image was really, it sent a message to me. And you had another child. So it's not about dress. The queen will wear her queen thing. It's about the care you want from your politicians. You want them to care. If somehow Saraki was able to get down in his agbada, we don't mind. If he's able to meet, and more substantially, if he can meet the needs of those people, we don't even care what they wear. Let them meet our needs. Let them meet our everyday needs.
You guys are wearing our Nigerian traditional.
I disagree.
Can I say that?
So are you.
Can I say that? It's a bit like, let's drag this further a little bit, like to say that there's form and there's function. If a soldier going to war, will he wear agbada? No, he wears uniform.
Which Buhari used to do.
So it fits the function. The form fits the function. So I think that politicians, there are 2 things here at play, in my view. that. And Princess Diana communicated that in wearing jeans and a shirt, rose sleeveless,
sometimes.
It showed, it showed that she was, you don't dress overdress. You dress for the occasion. I would think that the people who were managing the politicians, in this case, maybe the Senate president going to that visit, should have, maybe he wants something,
spoken to him and say, look,
or even make the effort of, you come out of the car, be a bit dramatic, you take it off.
They see you roll it and say, I know where I'm coming to.
It creates empathy, because that's one thing that Princess Diana was, everybody talked about, the princess of empathy.
And just to buttress your point.
So I think it's necessary.
You really made the point, but I think somehow it just kind of like went above our heads slightly, because it's about what message they're trying to communicate to the people. Princess Diana, she's royalty. She wants to let them know that I can come to your level and I'm approachable. Our politicians don't want to tell us that, but it does not mean that they're not productive or as productive. But it's the message. It's just the message they're giving out.
Okay, sorry, wait. I don't know if did you finish what you were saying?
What I'm trying to explain to you is that you can be dressed to the nines and still be as productive. I think even before we started the show today, I was giving an example of someone I know very close to me who, she'll have a baby, nails, full face of makeup, mini skirt, high heels, whatever, and she's handling it like a champion. Me personally, I can't do that. But I'm not. The fact is, it's not slowing her down. It's not stopping her from doing anything with her children or even at her work. She's actually very successful at her job, and she's giving it high heels.
And she wears colors,
and colors. She gives it colors. So what weave on everything. So what I'm telling you is that it's not really.
I still disagree. I'll tell you.
People who dress in that way, they're usually quite comfortable in that way, and people who dress in a different way are usually quite comfortable in that. You'd be amazed that, look at someone like Kim Kardashian. She will wear her high heels and her tight clothes any which way, whether she's chilling on the bed or she's going out. She's very productive, I can tell you that much, So I don't really think it's
I'll tell you. If Buhari was, and I'm going to use him.
It's because you just don't like our politicians.
No.
I understand.
It's almost every Nigerian. I can't stand to see a CEO of a company dressed in full agbada when he shouldn't be. When there's work to do. No, he is. No, some of them dig holes with the agbada on, which is a problem for me. And it goes beyond the dress and the occasion, are two things that it's a mindset thing. Why is it that when Buhari wants to sit down with his ministers, there's a huge table that there's nobody that doesn't have 5 meters between them, and they say they're holding a meeting in full agbada. But when you hear that there's a problem in 10 Downing Street, guess what? They sit on the tightest table. Everybody rolls up their sleeve. Boris Johnson has taken off his jacket. Everything is rolled up.
Doesn't still stop him from being a buffoon.
Excuse me. Yeah, not to worry. The buffoon matter is another matter. He will be your next prime minister. So anyway, so you then sit and you get things done. We don't get things done in Nigeria because of our setup, our mindset, the dress, the place we sit with that dress on, it's all one thing. We are a bunch of people who are not really working, and so we don't dress for the occasion. If you are working, you will dress for it.
No, but you're saying that if they go to an IDP camp, he shouldn't have been wearing agbada. Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But his advisors, maybe he didn't think about it. Maybe he was comfortable. Yeah. His advisors should have told him. Princess Diana wasn't just dressing like that. She had a whole heap of advisors and PR machine behind her.
What our priority should be, I think, is not on what they look like. It's what they're doing.
No,
and that's measurable.
Because
this other one isn't.
Because
sorry, Chuka, let me say it. Because this other bit is not measurable. I would rather have somebody who performs than looks, packages themselves. Are they selling me a
I've been in government, I can tell you this. Let me tell you why. If you live with a mindset of show, of form without function, that is why a day before a VIP visits, the roads are covered.
Yes.
We're just painted black. Yeah. Because that's how we live, to show.
Yeah.
We're not the hard work.
So you're saying it goes beyond
yes,
the ice level.
Like Emeka, my advocacy was designed to broaden our consciousness.
I think you need to jump over the table to show us.
Yeah, show us how you show it.
I'll do that after the show. Anyway, time always flies by with so much left unsaid. We trust you to keep the conversation going on our social media platforms. On Facebook, Plus TV Africa, #TheAdvocateNG. On Twitter and Instagram, at Plus TV Africa, #the Advocate NG. So let's keep advocating for a better society. Bye then.
Until then,
bye. Bye.
Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really disastrous for a president
to even say
to be unaware of the chief
justice. It's a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was
very
terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.